If you like wasting ammo, time, and money, skip this video. If you'd rather shoot better and spend less, stick around. Hey everyone, today we will show you 5 mistakes I see every single class that steal your attention, wreck your performance, and keep you from learning the good stuff. If you dial these in before you hit the range or take a class, you will retain more information, shoot better, and actually enjoy the process a whole lot more. Hi, I'm Christian McReady, a retired police officer with 23 years of service, a certified instructor from Tactical Hive, and I've trained with some of the industry's leading firearms instructors. Today, we're going to tackle 5 common problems I see often at the range. For each one, I will define it, show you exactly how to fix it, and show you what right looks like. The first problem I often see is a less than optimal stance. It's important to note that stance is situational and should change depending upon the situation at hand. Except I usually see the same stance regardless of the situation, especially when someone is trying to shoot fast. So when people try to shoot fast or fast in succession, they are often missing an appropriate forward center of gravity. Recoil is often taught as something your grip alone will fix. If you define recoil as the energy produced when the handgun fires, that idea is only partially correct. And let me explain this. Imagine a gun is fired in space with no hand attached. Newton's third law dictates that the gun will be pushed rearward as the bullet gets pushed forward. That rearward force is recoil. When you introduce a hand into the equation, things change. Your hand will create a fulcrum on that pistol. This causes the gun's muzzle to rise. Your grip will affect this muzzle rise, but the rearward motion or the energy is best managed by your stance, especially by using a forward center of gravity. And there are more advanced ways to mitigate this energy with your arms, but that's for another video. An efficient and an ideal stance keeps your weight slightly forward. That's your forward center of gravity doing its job. Your knees should be bent, your feet should be flat, and you should have a staggered stance. Then your upper body is relaxed and passive, absorbing the recoil instead of fighting it. Think of your body as a shock absorber, and the recoil impulse moves through you instead of against you. This setup gives you balance, control, and consistency. It's not the only way to stand. It's simply the most efficient and ideal way to manage recoil and maintain gun-to-target alignment when you're shooting fast. When you use forward center of gravity, your knee should be bent, flat, and a proper staggered stance. Your body absorbs the energy more efficiently and your gun returns to alignment faster. And your overall shooting performance goes way up. Pro tip. Have you ever noticed how top competitive shooters sometimes shoot standing straight up and other times lean aggressively forward using their forward center of gravity? This is another reminder that stance is situational and not always required to have an aggressive forward leaning stance. When there's no need for speed, like on a precise controlled shot, shooters often stand more upright to minimize tension and body stress. But when speed and recoil management matter, they'll shift into that forward center of gravity to absorb recoil and to maintain precise gun-to-target alignment. The key takeaway is stance should serve the shot, not the other way around. The second thing I see most often is that students struggle with grip height or leverage. Even a small gap between the web of your hand and the beaver tail means you're losing leverage. Think of that grip like a tiny escape hatch for recoil. The gun's energy will find it every single time and run off. Leverage combined with friction is what keeps the muzzle from flipping up and stealing time between shots. If you have good leverage and friction, the muzzle flips less and the sights come back faster. Your hand should sit high enough that the web is snug under the beaver tail, like you're pressing up into it, and you should feel a small amount of pressure in that webbing of your hand. That little crease is an indexing point that you're in the right spot. If you're too low, you won't control muzzle rise efficiently, and your sights won't return to their starting position quickly. In short, more time wasted, fewer hits. Get high and tight with good friction and you'll notice instantly less muzzle rise, faster follow-up shots, and tighter groups. This is the difference between dancing with a gun and being carried across the floor by it. You want the dancing.
I'm your huckleberry.
The third thing I see most commonly at classes has to do with your thumbs or friction. This one causes more trouble than people realize. I see it all the time from beginners to people who have been shooting for years. What they do is they stick their firing hand thumb along the frame. Then they wrap their control hand around it. This creates a small gap between the gun and your hands. This gap is where the recoil energy escapes. When you create this gap, you create a lack of control in your grip. Your connection to the handgun weakens and the muzzle rise increases, sometimes twice as much. Here's the fix. Raise your strong hand thumb like a hitchhiker and fill that gap with the meaty part of your support hand. Once it's seated there, let both thumbs rest naturally forward. They shouldn't be working. They're just along for the ride. This creates maximum contact area, and with pressure, you will attain friction. Here's a note. Some instructors teach using their thumbs to push down and fight muzzle rise. That's a technique and not a principle. If you want to experiment with it, that's fine, but be careful. I see more people create more problems than solve when they use this method. By increasing contact with the control hand, you maximize friction of the gun, and more friction equals more control. When you make this change, you will notice less muzzle rise, and this will be visible in how high your front sights rise while you're shooting. Also, your dot or your sights will come back to the same spot more aligned and reliable, and then you'll be able to deliver shots faster, and your overall performance will improve, especially when shooting quickly. Sometimes people ask me, why does speed matter? If you never plan to use your gun for a practical purpose, speed might not matter. But if your goal is to defend yourself or someone else, speed absolutely matters. Every tenth of a second counts. In a defensive situation, every tenth of a second could be the difference between life and death. The fourth thing I see often in class is a poor understanding of sight alignment, and more importantly, what to focus in on and when. With iron sights, you must confirm equal height. The top edge of the front sight should line up with the top edge of the rear sight. You also want to have equal light on either side of the front sight in the rear notch. Those two checks, equal height and equal light, are the basic requirements for proper sight alignment. The bigger mistake I see is people not understanding what to look at and when. Here's a rule of thumb. For a controlled, precise shot, you focus on the front sight. The target will be slightly blurry, and that sight focus is how you place an accurate shot. For fast work, close ranges, under time pressure, or an immediate threat, your focal point should shift to the target. The sights fall into your peripheral vision. This doesn't mean that your sights are misaligned. It means your body and training are allowing them to stay aligned without you staring at them. In short, for precision, focus on the front sight. For speed, focus on the target and trust your fundamentals. Get both working and you'll be accurate at the distances and speeds you need. After saying this, someone always asks me, how do you know that the sights are aligned if you're not looking right at them? That comes from kinesthetic efficiency, the feel of the correct grip, presentation, sight picture. Advanced iron sight shooters develop this sense or feeling of their body in space. They don't need to stare at their sights at close ranges, yet alignment is still consistent. This is a product of good fundamentals, grip, stance, and good training. And finally, trigger press. This one separates smooth shooters from jerky shooters. A ton of people slap or jerk the trigger. That creates sympathetic movement. Your other fingers tighten up at the same time, and your muzzle moves just as the shot starts to break. That's why your hits go low left or low right, depending if you're a right-handed or left-handed shooter. To fix this, think about two principles: constant speed and straight to the rear. Constant speed means that you press the trigger at the same pace from start to finish, not fast at the start and not slow at the end. Straight to the rear means exactly that, not downward, not sideways, straight to the rear. If it helps, visualize touching your nose with your trigger finger as you press. When you press your trigger with constant speed and straight to the rear, your sights will stay stable and your shots will break clean. And then your accuracy will jump up and improve instantly. These two principles alone can change the way you shoot forever. Let's recap. First, your stance. Keep your weight forward and utilize the forward center of gravity. Next, your grip. Get high and tight on the gun as possible and maximize your friction and leverage. Third, thumbs, thumbs, thumbs. Don't allow your thumbs to create gaps and create a loss of connection with the gun. For vision, focus where it matters the most. For precise shots, use sight focus. For close shots, use target focus. And finally, trigger. Apply constant speed and straight to the rear motion with each trigger press, and this will minimize the disturbance of your sights. If you practice these 5 fundamentals just a few minutes a day, you will see real improvements before your next class. If you want to speed up your progression, come join a class and let's train. We'll break these habits down in real time and we'll fix them. And we'll make sure your foundation is rock solid. Check the link below for class schedule. I'm Chris from Make Ready, and as always, be well, be safe, and keep training.